Yeah, and one thing I think we should talk more about today, which to be honest, I have not watched your series, The Great Unknown, yet, but I gonna check it out, and I wanna know maybe a little bit about like what made you decide to focus on the topic of reincarnation, and let's start here because this is I have some interesting information about this topic, which I think not a lot of people know about, and it's been something I've been learning lately. But let's start with what made you decide to focus on this movie.
Right. So you were asking about the theme of reincarnation and death.
Yeah, what made you decide to focus on this topic?
Yeah. Well, basically I'm obsessed with this topic. To be honest, I'm completely, I've always been into it, because with the question of who are we, what are we doing here, obviously connected with that is what happens after we die. What are we after we die? And there's so many aspects of that. What's multidimensionality? What are we really in the essence? So it's been an obsession of mine for years and years and years. But back in December 2023, somebody close to us passed away at a young age. And I was there when it happened. And while I was observing what was going on with this person leaving the planet, I suddenly was like, this person was my age. I was like, whoa, what happened? Because this was such a big personality. So one moment there's this big personality, and the next it's gone. And even though I'd looked into the theme of death already so much and for so many years, when it comes so close and it hits you emotionally, it just opened a whole new field of research for me. And I thought, well, I can research this for myself, but I'm a filmmaker, so I might as well document me researching it. It's like someone like David Icke, who's a writer, he researches something and puts it in writing. So that's what I decided to do. And it was meant to be a film. But as I started the process, and I spoke to so many incredible people, it became a 4-part series. So it's about, around an hour each episode. And I came to the conclusion that, this whole idea of that reincarnation is a positive thing. I really realized that I'm not so sure now. And that already started in 2010 when I did my ayahuasca experience. And I was shown the synthetic reincarnation cycle that just kept humans keeping on looping back and up and down, up and down. And already then I was shown, there's some kind of trap going on. And in my series, I did, realize that that's probably very likely.
Okay, so this is the topic I wanted to mention. So, I basically discovered this relatively unknown regressive hypnosis technique called Grifasi method, which is basically it's called regressive hypnosis, but you don't have to be hypnotized because we work with the psychic. So 2 people run the session. And let's say if you are not susceptible to hypnosis, it doesn't really matter because the psychic will try to tap into your, soul level or past lives or whatever the situation needs to be tapped into, right?
Yeah.
And there is this method helped me. Like 2.5 years ago, I had etheric implants installed on my auric field, which I knew about because I feel my aura, and I knew exactly when I got them installed and things like that. I was experimenting a lot with rituals and things like that, and turned out that some of these manifestation rituals came with specific price, So I was learning through my experience about these things for a couple of years, and I when I had thing attached to my back, which is like I feel my auric field. I had my Kundalini awakening like more than 15 years ago. So I feel my aura, feel my chakras, things like that. And I knew I had something on my shoulder. And finally, I found a method that helped me to release that, which was like really shocking because I couldn't do it for over 2 years, and I was trying a lot of techniques. And what happens in this situation is that when you have any kind of etheric devices attached to your aura, like it's like an operation. So after it was removed, like first for 2 months I had these electric shocks on my back all the time, and I was weak for a whole week because it's like after an operation, right? It's like basically you had a hole in your auric field, and there was a device, etheric device attached that was supposedly sucking the energy or something,
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
first I was weak, and then I get like this amazing, energy up and everything. And I was really shocked with this whole experience that I became so interested in this method that I decided I need to learn it myself. So finally, I finished course like a couple of months ago. I was studying the technique, and there's a lot of really interesting stuff that this technique works on. But one of the things that the people, let's say, that started the method discovered is that there are a lot of manipulations going on between incarnations. And what's happening is that very often after someone dies, the soul, for example, meets some spirit guides or some kind of ancestors, whatever, or some council that will tell you, you got to go back to Earth because you got to repay the karma or something like that.
Yeah.
And from the work that this system, the people behind it were doing over the years, they learned, we're learning this, that a lot of incarnations are manipulated. And we have techniques to try to figure out who are the spirit guides, let's say, because very often they are not your ancestors or whatever. They're reptilians or others. They use some kind of holographic system to appear as someone Another thing is, so what happens is that people agree and sign contracts in between lifetimes, creating some kind of soul plan for their lives, which often is completely manipulated. So they become the tool for negative entities, either energy-wise, like they create some emotions, or they're gonna be used for some kind of reasons on Earth and whatever. And honestly, the more I learned about it, the more I started seeing it with some people I know. It's just incredible. Like some people had like apparently 100 incarnations manipulated. You go out, they again try to catch you. What supposedly happens, I'm still learning this stuff, but I definitely I'm convinced this is true now. Is that, for example, this whole thing with the tunnel, seeing the light, and supposedly this is a fake construct. That what happens is sometimes the memories are not coming back so quickly after someone passes away, and that's why they use some kind of technique to keep you still numb, right, before you start reminding yourself. And the tunnel thing is just to keep you kind of numb, and then go through the contracts, agreements on your next incarnation, blah blah blah, which is manipulated. And very often the incarnation can be like partially yours choice and partially the tricks, and it's most of the time it's around just trying to trick you that you have to repay some karma, you gotta suffer a lot, things like that. So I don't know, did you discover anything like that during your
Exactly
work?
what you just said. Exactly what you said. And also, you know, when you listen to the Tibetan philosophies, they speak about the wheel of samsara, right? I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so that, you know, you pass away and you enter a wheel. I see that as a spiral back down into another incarnation. And that tunnel is also like a spiral. And, you know, people have asked, well, if that's the case, then where do I go then? If I'm not meant to go into the tunnel, which is a synthetic holographic, well, in my opinion, representation, if I'm not supposed to do that, then where do I go? And it's a question I got a lot after the series. And I found I wasn't really able to give an answer that satisfied me. Until last week, I interviewed a person from the Monroe Institute, the Gateway Project. And he's been astral traveling for many, many, many years. And he, to me, is the most down-to-earth guy I've spoken to when it comes to all of this. And he said something that so resonated with me and that had come up already for me. Like, what do you do then? And he basically spoke about that we are a fractal representation of the whole, the oneness. And so, in other words, we are that. And so what we mustn't do is the mistake we make on this planet is we're constantly looking outwards at the projection, you know, a savior or a friend or a Jesus figure, whatever. And what he said is no. When you pass, you don't make the same mistake where you go outwards, out into a tunnel, out to a figure, a savior or a family member. According to him, it's all synthetic and none of it is real. He said, what you do is you literally go inwards. Now you can say, well, I don't have a body anymore, so what does it mean going inwards? But inwards into your consciousness. And that basically funnels you into a different direction. It funnels you inwards, which is it's a paradox because it's inwards, but it's out. You go out, basically. By going inwards, you go out. By going outwards, you go back in. That's the paradox of the whole thing.
Yeah, sometimes apparently these traps look like, you know, whatever the belief system you had. Let's say you believed in Jesus, the other person believed in Muhammad, whatever. Like you're gonna see something related to whatever the belief you had. But one of the ways that we use, let's say techniques we use to try to figure out if you're dealing with some kind of, you know, beings that are pretending to be someone else, is that you look them in the eyes and you try to touch them, because like if they have some kind of holographic projection, you touch them, like you're normally gonna feel the different texture of the skin or scales or whatever. And the eyes typically are difficult to cover properly, so you're gonna see something's wrong in the eyes when you are there, you know. And when you touch the skin, you're probably gonna feel that this is not the skin that they have. So this is like one of these two things we check always, who is dealing, you know. And another thing is that because everything is always based on your free will, whenever, you know, you are in your own kind of you know, and they cannot do anything without your agreement. That's the free will principle is kind of working. So you can request their true identity, their true form. Whenever you deal with anyone there,
great advice.
You can say, you know, show me your true identity or true form. And that's why they also try to keep you numb straight away, you know, because before you remember properly things, they try to like block it. But these are some of the techniques we use when we use the psychic to tap into the scene, because we can, you know, move into backwards in time, into like do remote viewing into what's happened between the lifetimes and change the contracts there. So this is some of the stuff that we are doing now with this technique.
Yeah, and I resonate with everything you say. And this person that I interviewed also said, you do have some time to choose. So it doesn't mean upon death you have to go straight inwards. You can observe this 360 reality you just in, but whether you engage with it, because as soon as you start engaging with it, they can use methods like what you just said, guilt, shame, regret, all these things that attach you to this earth, things that are unfinished. They'll make you feel like you've not finished something. So, oh, you left these people behind and they're relying on you to for their freedom, for their liberation. They're relying on you coming back to make it, to make things right again. And if you haven't dealt with your guilt and your shame and all of that stuff, then it will be very easy to use the emotional lure to pull you back into agreeing to another lifetime. So it's very important that things like, and they talk about this in the Tibetan tradition, things like lust and greed and spiritual hunger and regret, shame, all of those aspects that still make you feel like you have unfinished business, that you deal with that while you're alive. And this is why it's so utterly important to awaken in this life and to deal with these subjects thoroughly. In fact, it's my belief that it should be prioritized over anything else. To deal with that first. And you may think, well, but shouldn't I get married and have babies and blah, blah. Those are automatic programs, it's far more important to fully spend all your attention on looking at where am I still hooked in. And you described it so beautifully, when you talked about these energetic hooks. They're very real. These energetic hooks, you may not see them with your eyes in this visual spectrum, but they're very real. You really get hooked in. And emotions are the perfect way of doing it, as well as sexual energy, and you see a lot of extreme sexual energy nowadays, even worse than ever in this society, which is also a major hook to hook you in to lust, and to, wanting the pleasures of this earth, when really out of body you don't need any of that. If you've dealt with that, you can let go of that and become and basically connect with this field of where you're completely one with everything and you're not separate from anything, so you don't want anything either. That whole idea of wanting something is separation consciousness, which is very much related to the duality reality that we experience here on earth.
Yeah, I think all the emotions you described, like greed, lust, whatever, all the low vibrational emotions. This, based on what I know, it's like the food for all of these negative beings. And sexual energy very often is used in all sorts of ways because it's very powerful. Our sexual energy can be used, for example, to create life. Like we learned about etheric pregnancy, which are manipulated as well, where the sexual energy is used to create hybrids of all sorts, or even women. For example, in physical body, a woman cannot get pregnant, but what happens when we check is that she has etheric pregnancy with some kind of reptilian whatever, which also was by agreement that she doesn't know on a conscious level. And the sexual energy is being harvested through all sorts of ways. So, but the thing is, like with these low vibrational emotions, like anything like greed, lust, fear, anger, whatever, this is what they are attracted to. So if you are trying to not have this throughout your life, you are less likely probably to be a target, I guess, because you're not calling them in a way, I think.
Yeah, the way I look at that is slightly deviating from that. And that is that I think one of the big New Age mistakes is abstinence, where people go full-blown only healthy food, or full-blown only this or only that. I don't think that that's where the solution lies. I think the solution lies in always finding a balance, because we are in a human body and we have human needs. So they will be there, and the denying of it will only create a shadow around us. So I do think that everything should be okay, as long as you know within yourself when you go out of balance. It's that beautiful 0 point that gets us out of this trap. You know, got positively charged, negatively charged, duality. I think this matrix is held together by electricity. You know, it's literally, we are the conductors basically of this plus and minus energy, and any direction out of balance pulls you back into it. So, you know, I see a lot of people, like I just said, you know, that are straight edge into only the healthy or only the good or only vibing high, you know, and all of that. It's not sustainable. I've allowed myself to just be part of everything and engage with everything, but in a very subtle, balanced way. I can't say I always do that, but I'm making it a very big focus of my life to just be here, you know, when in Rome, do as the Romans kind of thing, you know. So I do navigate through it as long as I'm fully conscious of it and don't go out into extremes, because I think that's where the danger lies, unconsciousness and not knowing when you've gone out of balance.
So this is sort of a long question. So the question came, this is definitely a time when we're all doing our search. And Christy, you made mention that in the film, why you really was inspired by this film. Can you go into a little bit of the details now?
Yeah, well, it's interesting what Lauda was saying, that it feels like the time is now. And it's very ironic to say that, well, we've got Carrie to thank for that. I mean, Carrie, David's daughter, of course, passed away in December 2023. And so that's a slight silver lining in it, is that it spurred me on to make this film. It's a very confrontational thing to see someone die. And it's one of those moments, I guess it's similar to when you see a baby being born. It's one of those moments where all the mundane and ordinary just goes out of the window for a moment. And there's only the now when that happens. And it was such an important moment for me because Carrie was very lively and a very big personality, and to suddenly see someone not, you know, lying still. And this question really, really deeply came up, like, what has happened with her? Like, where is she? It can't just have stopped like that. I don't want to believe that the consciousness has to have dispersed into something else, whether it's something in form or something formless. And I couldn't let that question go. I was just like, no, where is she? Where is she? Where is she? This is just too bizarre. And then, of course, when you listened to near-death experience stories, a lot of the time, these people say that when they were out of body, their life just felt like it was just a drop in the ocean. It felt like a second. And then I thought, well, isn't it absolutely bizarre then that we are focusing all our attention on a second instead of focusing our attention on eternity? Why don't we know more about this? Why are we frightened of it? Why are we avoiding the subject? And I thought, well, if these questions keep playing in my mind, I'm going to have to do something with it. And obviously, I'm a filmmaker, so that would be the way I would create something. And I think it's very important to know that I did not want to make a film showing only one perspective. I saw some comments on Twitter earlier today where people say, oh, New Age, love and light, I'm not going to watch this. And first of all, I thought, of course, well, you haven't even watched it yet, because I really wanted to highlight all sorts of different perspectives, you know, the Tibetan perspective, the Christian perspective, the perspective from near-death experiences, from researchers, from people who've had out-of-body experiences, from scientists. And so in that way, I want to invite the viewer to kind of maybe become aware, have they got a strong belief system, or can they be open to hearing other perspectives? And of course, there's a myriad of accounts of people who've had near-death experiences. And there's a lot of crossovers, but there are also a lot of different aspects. And I guess that's due to the perspective of the perception of the person. So whoever's watching the 4 films, they will come out of it realizing that it's not one perspective that we're highlighting. So yeah, that's in a nutshell my motivation for making a film.
And there's so much to explore. There's so much, as you mentioned, that it just goes deeper and deeper that we're just unaware of. And these films and Iconic and the work that you've done over the last 35 plus years of just helping us now get to the point that we can really understand what's happening. That said, there's another question that's coming in the chat, and this one is for Lauda. And it's in line sort of with David, where you've led us to thus far. Lauda, you speak of the simulacrum. And so the question is, can you explain what it is and then who created it?
So the simulacrum, which is an interface system, originally, this is a big question, and it would, to really go into it, I'm going to just summarize. So originally, there was a counterfeit copy, a facsimile copy of the universe created. And this was undetectable, so a lot of the souls were trapped in this facsimile copy. Now, the facsimile copy, this is a very, very, very ancient AI, if you will, creating a simulacrum, which is a simulation, but you have an interface system, your body, everything that is created to be within this facsimile version ends up being an interface system to the simulacrum. So it works with your psyche, and it creates that interface reality, that theater that is created. Within that theater, you can have what is a backdrop reality. So the simulacrum is like a living AI simulation where you are interfacing with this. And our job is, because of the memory swipes, is to remember our origin, who we are, and the fact that this is a facsimile version. This is not the original verse. So I know my first memory before I was born, just to summarize why I spoke about the net when I saw it when I was 5 over the entire sky. My first memory is I was told, do not, under any circumstances, fall asleep, because this is the most dangerous reality in existence. Do not fall asleep. I wasn't being told not to sleep. I was told, do not allow my consciousness to sleep. Now, when I was 5 and I saw the net system, I understood, even though I was 5, I wasn't really 5, right? I came into this body to do what I came in to do. I understood this is a part of that simulacrum. This is a part of the containment system. This is frequency net, where we are literally contained. It's a containment system. So this was, to me, confirmation of why it was so important not to fall asleep, that your consciousness is the key, your spirit consciousness is the key, and remembering is the key. Now, there were things that were done for me to remember a lot, because in coming in, they fry you. There's an electrical system that comes in and just electrocutes you almost. It's like a shock. So there were things that were put in so that I wouldn't forget. Now, you live your life, you live in the simulacrum, and you don't realize that the simulacrum is engaging with you and your interface system, with your psyche, your belief systems, your programming, And you're a part of the machine as an interface system to create that backdrop reality, that false reality. And along with the false reality is what? It's a false identity. It's a false life. It's a thefted life, a stolen life. You're now something else.